do you continue this on Sunday? On Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think probably evaluating tonight and coming down off the excitement of a very, very good win. At this stage of the season, 6 games remaining, 5 now. Of course, it's absolutely vital that not only we finish the season off well with some momentum, if we can, but probably the most important thing is to keep adding points and to keep that fight going, to get ourselves above that line, because it is a fight. There are some very good teams in the mix, and it could well go down to the wire. So the performance, especially in the second period, of course I have to highlight Hanny's sensational display against what I thought was a pretty decent man marking job by Acosta, and he still scores a hat-trick. I mean, I think it just underlines the sheer quality of the individual, and should really shine an even bigger spotlight on what he's trying to achieve this year.
Go ahead.
Gary, how does winning 3 straight, knowing what that means for you guys, given where you guys have come from, but also what that means to you guys in the standings, balancing that with what spots 3 through 9 look like, and how do you balance what does that feel like?
Well, look, before we played Dallas here, make no mistake, that game was of huge importance to get ourselves back on track. We performed at a very high level. 4 goals gives a group huge confidence. To switch the group around and to get such a good result in Vancouver, of course, reinforces some of the high caliber work that's going on. I think we conceded 1 goal in 3 games now. What is that? 11 goals. Those stats are very, very good from a group that were creating chances but probably not making the most of them. We're now seeing a far more ruthless edge in front of goal. And I think, in terms of competition, I think we have to expect that, we're running into teams now, Colorado, Dallas, Vancouver, all in the mix. It'll be no different at the weekend against Austin. The games are going to be tight, they're going to be tense, and having someone in the sort of form that Hanny's in, and obviously being more confident in their final third, in the attacking third, of course, bodes well as we go into these final 5 games.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about Acosta and kind of that man-marking system. It felt like at times he was almost dropping into their back line, and their fullbacks, it felt like getting so high caused you guys some problems in the first half. Hani, after the game, said that he had a lot of trouble with it and felt like he figured it out at halftime. What adjustments or what did you see at halftime, and why do you think that a switch kind of flipped?
For sure. There were a couple of other things that went on in that midfield. They locked on to our midfield players. It was almost a man-for-man scenario in the central part of the field. Very reminiscent of the early Atlanta days and San Jose. Those guys can get dragged around, and the important factor at half-time was to find some better quality out of the group, to move the ball more efficiently, and to find those connections, better supporting angles, and to move it a little bit quicker. And of course, confidence grows when it's successful, and we were successful early on in the second half. It can then be a little bit more demoralising for the opposing team, and of course, to add into that, the press and the energy from the group, the intensity to try and win it back, went up a gear, which was important. They had far too much time to control the game, to pick their spot, and to put us under pressure. And the goals, make a massive difference, of course, when there are a couple more things that are going right for you. You want that underlined.
We'll go to the Zoom with Tim Sullivan.
Gary, you mentioned to Tony and Jamie after the game that you feel like Hani's in a good position for the MVP race as Austin comes to town. How excited are you to see kind of that head-to-head battle, and what are you expecting to see from not just Austin, but especially from Sebastian Driussi?
Well, I could say I'm really not that interested in seeing a pair of them on the field. I'm most interested in Hani, of course. What I do understand is that Driussi is a fantastic player. He's hugely influential for Austin. And he himself is in, of course, a very, very good position, and he's fighting hard, I'm sure, for the MVP title. What I expect, though, is to run into a group that are in a very, very confident mood. They themselves have some terrific momentum. Wonderful result against LAFC but a week ago. And I'm sure they themselves feel as though they could possibly chase that Western Conference title down given the result in Houston tonight. I've not seen, I think the Austin game has maybe been delayed, weather delay or whatever, but they've obviously kicked off late. But the team that's coming into town are one of the informed teams. Well, in the last 3 games, I'd have to say we're not far away from that ourselves. It's a very small sample size. They've obviously achieved that to a far greater degree across the course of the season. But it will be a huge test. It'll be a great test. And I would think all of the guys are looking forward to it after the result tonight.
Go ahead, Steve.
Gary, what do you make of Schaffelberg's first few games here? What did you think you were getting from him when he came in on loan? And how would you kind of evaluate his play so far?
Well, I think the first thing is Jacob's not played an awful lot of football up in Toronto, and he had to deal with a 10-day or so window where he couldn't work with Toronto. We were waiting on paperwork. So, as you can see, we're working him towards that full fitness. What I expected as a player, I think we've got very dynamic, very predominantly left-footed, which balances our group out. Extremely energetic and team-oriented. And if you look at the way that he's affected our group, what he's given our group, the different dimension that he's offered for our team, and of course, the end product, 2 goals and a penalty earned in the 3 games that he's been involved in, and a 20-minute cameo in Vancouver, and earns a penalty towards the end, and 2 goals in the only 2 games that he started. So I'm not sure I could have expected too much more of a return than we've got right now. Listen, I'm delighted that he's here. I've said that before. And my hope is that he can keep reinforcing those performances.
Claudio, go ahead.
Gary, arguably, Randall Young's been playing the best soccer that we've seen play in Nashville. It wasn't because of Mokhtar being what he is. We might have been talking about Randall pretty much after every game. What has happened in terms of your tactical drawing for him to be so important nowadays, especially in the last 3 quarters of the team?
Well, I mean, Randall's always been important. You know that. When we played with the back 3 for a long time last year, he was influential in that, what we would class as that attacking trio. Did a fantastic 2-way job, and has certainly the engine and the energy and the tenacity to perform for the team, and what I would class as creatively for himself to try and score, or for others. I think he's inspired to try and get close to the Costa Rican national group towards the World Cup. Who wouldn't be? He's a young man. There's an opportunity there, and I think his output, his productivity, certainly the goal in Vancouver, he's involved in, I think Hani's 4th tonight, the shot from the edge of the box. He's gotten himself into some terrific positions. Unfortunately, not quite always come up with the finishing touch, but he's enabled others, and he's been a huge piece of that puzzle. What I would say is that if you look at that attacking group, they all bring something very different to the table. You know, CJ's physical presence, Hani's execution has been absolutely astounding. I think it's 19 goals now and 250 assists in this last season. But Randall's ability to, draw pressure, to break lines, to, connect with others. And now we add Jacob into that group as well, who offers some exceptional balance on the left-hand side. Something we needed, very much so.
And one final question.
Sure. Yeah, Gary, we've talked a couple times about how earlier you had said just getting into the playoffs would be a huge achievement. And I mean, it's kind of funny how the narrative has flipped a little bit after just 3 games. But where do you stand on that now? How do you feel about where the team is headed, and what are you aiming for over this last stretch?
Well, we're in a positive mood. We're in a confident mood. You would expect that after 3 good wins. But I think the easiest mistake anyone can make is to feel as though because you go into the next game having scored 11, conceded 1, that the next challenge is going to be that much easier. It won't be. It'll be tougher. Every time that you win a game, I suspect the teams that we're playing, because that plays into it as well, those teams will look at our form and the ability that we've brought to the table in the last 2-3 weeks especially. We've always been a side that has been competitive. I think tipping the balance and seeing the goals that have started to flow. I think we've created those chances, I've said it before, but we're now starting to see the floodgates open a little bit, which is obviously good for the group. There are some huge challenges along the way here in these last 5 games, and some very, very important matchups. We have LA coming into town, who have drawn tonight, but I think 2 games in hand on us. But after a win tonight, we're obviously keen to chase down those teams above us. I think, do we go within a point or 2 of Dallas tonight on the same games? Well, then there's no reason why we shouldn't be looking up instead of down. But I want to be mindful of just what it takes to get above that line. Both conferences are incredibly tight again. It happens every year. And I'd love to think we can ride this wave and this momentum for as long as possible. But we've also got to be professional enough to earn results and maybe points at important times that will just be enough to tip the scales.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate
Thank you.
taking the time.
Oh.
Welcome back, everybody. We are joined by Captain Dax McCarthy and hat-trick scorer Hani Mukhtar. Hani, your thoughts on tonight's performance and scoring your hat-trick?
Yeah, I'm very happy to score 3 goals and help the team. Our first half wasn't good enough. We knew it, but in the end we were still in the game, and we knew if we can play a little bit better and improve our game, we can easily win that game. So we did that. We played a really good second half, and we deserved the win then in the end.
Dax, 3 back-to-back performances in a matter of 10 days. How do you continue the momentum going into Saturday?
Well, we just have to build off of a wonderful second half. I think we've played, if my math serves me correct, that's 6 halves, correct? So we've played 5 out of 6 really good halves. Like Hani said, the first half was difficult. I thought Colorado played like their lives depended on it, which clearly it did, their playoff lives. And I thought they played well. I thought they outplayed us. That was my view from the bench, and I think the guys on the field would probably feel the same way. But I think the sign of a good team is a team that's able to weather a storm, not play well, and still be able to get a result, in no small part due to this guy sitting here to my right. I'm sure most of you guys are sitting here wondering, well, why is Dax in this press conference right now? It doesn't make any sense. And honestly, I'm going to be very brief. I wanted to come in here and just talk about this guy. You guys know what time it is. It's award season. That means the propaganda machine starts churning out, all the favorite candidates and highlights and things that all the players around this league do very well. But I think it's incumbent upon myself to come up here as the team captain and talk about how important Hani Mukhtar has been to our club this year, not just this year, but for the past 3 years. I think in 2020, it was a difficult year for everybody, Hani included. I think he would probably readily admit he wasn't at his best. And in 2021 and 2022, I think everyone is getting a glimpse of just the potential that Hani has as a player, but I still think he has more to give. And if you break down what the most valuable player award means, I think it's a guy who's absolutely irreplaceable on his team. And I don't think anyone's going to sit up here and argue that this guy's not irreplaceable for us. I look at players historically in MLS. No disrespect to Hani. The guys I'm about to name, he can't touch them in terms of internationally, but in terms of MLS, he's right up there in my opinion. Guys like Robbie Keane, a guy I played with Thierry Henry. Guys like Sebastian Giovinco. These guys were transcendent not only on their teams but in MLS as well. And if you look at the history of Nashville SC, it's a very short history, but it's one that is basically dominated by the brilliance of this guy right here to my right. So I'm not going to sit up here and talk about his stats. You guys know as well as I do that without his goals, without his assists, without his contributions, that we would be nowhere near the level that we're at right now in terms of being on the verge of making the playoffs for 3 consecutive seasons as an expansion club. The guy doesn't miss a game. He always wants to play. He doesn't want to get subbed out. He always wants to be on the field. He's a great teammate. He's a young old guy in terms of his leadership. He's very quiet, but he leads by example. So for me, there's a lot of great players in this league, a lot of guys that are deserving of being talked about as MVP candidates. My favorite players in this league, guys like Reynoso, Driussi, Gazdag, all these guys have fantastic resumes, but none of them come close to touching what this guy has done in the last 2 seasons, and that's inarguable. No one can argue that. So, the hat trick tonight is just the cherry on top of another wonderful season, and Hani's not going to admit this, but, his main goal is to help us win a championship, and I think right underneath that is winning the MVP because that's his ambition as a player. So, I'm going to stop talking now. I just wanted to make sure we put that out into the universe, and I want to make sure that all of our Nashville media members, which you guys have, start drumming up some serious buzz for this guy as MVP, because without him, I don't know where we'd be.
Are you going to do his next contract?
If I ever go to court, I would take him
if I
as my
get-
attorney,
if
man.
I-
That's
if-
for sure.
I will
That's for
only do
sure.
his next contract if I get 20%.
Oh, you get 30, man.
Thank you, Dax. Any follow-up questions for Mr. Mukhtar? Trey, go ahead.
Yeah. How do you mean? You said it last year or about last year that you didn't feel like the talks in terms of your MVP candidacy came at the right time. It came really late in the season. How do you feel about this season? Do you feel like those talks have started at the right time? And if so,
I mean, honestly, I don't think it's still not early enough. It came pretty late, but honestly, I just want to be successful here, and I want to give my best, like my performance, and that's what I do every training, every game. I give my best, and I think that if I do that, I can achieve, and I will achieve to be the MVP in the league. And like Dax said, I want to be very successful with the team, but I'm not gonna lie, I want to win also MVP. That's my personal goal, and I think I have to step up throughout my whole career. I always need to do more than other players, and I think if you see the last 2 years, how I improved here, I think I'm on the right way to achieve that.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, you're now tied with Sebastian Driussi for goals and obviously leading on assists. But with him coming into town this weekend, what have you seen from him? And with players like him and like Dax said, Reynoso and other guys around the league, how important is it to kind of have that competition among kind of the more creative players?
I mean, he's an amazing player. Honestly, I was at the All-Star week, and they're all very talented, amazing players. You know, I'm not saying one bad word about any player of them because they're brilliant. You know, but I just have to focus on me. I'm not focusing on, doesn't matter the name, right? Because in the end, I have to play my best game. I'm getting paid here, and I'm getting paid here to perform and to play good. You know, and so that's why I mean they're brilliant players, but I have to do my job, and I have to concentrate on myself.
Some of it was the Colorado system tonight, but also you get a lot of attention from other teams, and you have defenders focusing on you, you have midfielders focusing on you. How do you approach that level of attention from another team?
I mean, number 21 from Colorado, he's a center midfielder, but I think he played center back today. That's good for me because I can see people recognize that I'm doing well in this league. So, you know, I was figuring it out in the first half. I was struggling, I'm not gonna lie. So, but then in the second half I figured it out, and you know, I was on my best. And that's what it needs to really improve your own game, because obviously the teams they're having a video session and they're analyzing our game too. So it's good for me that happened now, you know, that I'm getting prepared for if we are making it to the playoffs, you know, that I'm prepared and when it's need to be, you know.
You guys have had a couple quick turnarounds this season with like weekend game, midweek game, weekend game. These last two games very different from your other quick turnarounds with great performances, obviously some wins. Can you talk about the differences between those, and you know, especially after a long road trip to Vancouver and being able to produce the way you guys have?
Yeah, I mean, we were with our back against the wall, we say that in German, before the Dallas game, right? We were in a bad run, and we knew that we have to turn that around, and that's on us, you know. I think we have the quality and we have the possibility to win against every team in this league, but we have to be on our best, and that's what good teams do, you know, when it's getting hard, you know, to turn things around, and that shows the character in the team. And I think we are on a good run, and we knew, you know, that I learned throughout my career, when it's bad, it's not that bad. If it's good, sometimes it's not that good, you know. So especially when we are losing, you have to concentrate on the good things, what you're good at, you know, and then you have to bounce back. And it shows character of the team that we, from a difficult run, we turn it around to a brilliant run. Now we won 3 games in a row. I think we scored how many, like 10 goals in 3 games or 11, you know. That's amazing, you know, and that's where we have to, that has to be our goal every game, and like I said in the beginning, we saw that tonight. Our first half wasn't good enough, but we're still in the game against the team which is fighting for the playoffs, and that has to be our goal, and we have to look at that if we are not playing well and we're still in the game, we're a good team, and when we are bringing 5 to 10% more, we are winning the second half 3-0,
Brilliant.
Henny, when you look at the team right now, I mean, there's always been a good connection between you and CJ. It's always been there. And perhaps with Randall is the one that maybe sometimes is not for whatever reason, But it seems now that, at least to me, that since Jacob comes in, for somehow you move inside a little bit, and that creates some kind of very good connection, like a triangle between you three guys in there. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah,
CJ
I mean,
Jacob?
Jacob is a brilliant player. He's a young player, and he gives us that speed what we need. That we are not easy to catch. And I mean, Randall is a brilliant player. I think he really deserves to go to the World Cup. How he's playing right now. I feel bad because people look at stats. And I know how important it is. But he's a player who gives the team a lot. He's never complaining. He's working hard every game, and he's showing that he has the quality to score or giving assists. And he's a good guy. And about CJ, he's my guy, and he's fighting for me all the time. I cannot remember that he complained to me, and sometimes I could play him the ball, and he's a great teammate, but he's even a better player. And honestly, like, I know that he hasn't scored in the last games, but the effort and the fight he gives us and the confidence is amazing. He's never complaining, and I can just give a lot of credits to this guy, and I know how difficult it is if you do not score over a long period. I had that in my old club, 10 games without a goal. It's fucking difficult for a player, and he comes in with every day with the good mood. He gives the team a very good spirit. He fights on the field, and he's running for other players, which is incredible. And I'm telling him every training. I'm saying, like, your goals will come. Like, I believe you have to earn the luck, and I think he really do that.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. Team on the line, and then we close it out with Ben.
Honey, you just talked a lot about Randall and CJ and how important they are to this team, but Dax also came in and just basically to to puff you up a little bit here. What does it say about this team that you guys not only play so well with each other, but that you have such positive feelings for each other? You want to see each other succeed. You want to see each other, kind of get these awards that Dax is, again, pumping you up for. Those sorts of things in terms of camaraderie and what you guys can take into the playoffs. How important is that for you guys?
Yeah, like I said, we had a bad run in July. We didn't win many games, and that's where you see that Mike Jacobs did a good job in creating the team, or building the team, because I know I've been in a couple of teams throughout my career, when it's not going good, the team can get very, very, separated. And I think we have a really good group of guys. So, that's, shows, I mean, like I said, I would take Dax as my attorney, I'm making jokes, but that's how we are in the team, I appreciate every word he's saying, and I know he mean it. And I mean, without my teammates, I wouldn't, they're always helping me out. Like he said, my season 2020 wasn't good at all, and I was struggling a lot, but they helped me. And that shows a good team, to bring the best out of players, and I think that's why I think CJ gets not enough credit, because he really brings the best out of players, and like, he brings the best out of me as my partner on the side,
Yeah, I mean, we've seen plenty of times in the past teams kind of struggle through June and July, and then they get hot towards the playoffs and make a run. This will probably seem like an overly simplistic question, but just point blank, how far do you think Nashville can go?
Yeah, I mean, we have goals in this club. I signed a new deal. Walker signed a new deal, not just for having a good time in Nashville, even though Nashville is a brilliant, amazing city. But we are here to win something and to compete. And I think we are on the right way. we are by far not there where we want to be. There is no doubt, you know. We have to be realistic enough. But I think we can achieve great things, and we have to go from game to game. We have really hard games now coming up. Austin is one of the best teams right now in the league. LA Galaxy has superstars. They're always capable to win games. So, you know, there will be two big tests, you know, and maybe if you ask me after these two games, I could